This is your teacher, Miss Chapman, for your English 223 class. And I wanted to go over the homework assignments for each of you so that you're very aware of everything that you need to do to complete each of the homework assignments, all of the requirements. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email or to text me directly. I will be happy to answer any of your questions. But let's get started by just taking a look at each of the homework assignments that you guys have for this week. So, in order to access the homework assignments, of course, you just need to go into our classroom, English 223, and then click on modules. Once you click on modules, it will let you know what is actually assigned for week one. So I want to go down to week one and show you everything that you need to be focusing on for week one. Now, week one, introduce yourself is optional. If you do decide to do the week one, introduce yourself and write a paragraph about yourself, your goals in your career and your academic journey, and how you think this class could fit in within your academic journey and your goals, then that can be counted as extra credit for you. Now, the first requirement for this week is going to be week one, discussion one. Let's take a closer look at what's required for this assignment. So in my discussion post, I always require you to watch a video first. So the video that you'll be watching is based on the things that we've been talking about in class this week, that today you talked about with Taban, and on Thursday you'll be talking about with Mr. Warren. So since we're talking about listening in relationship to interpersonal communication, I want you to watch this video on 5 ways recommended to listen better. And I want you to think about 2 different things: the obstacles that we often face when it comes to listening and communication, and then the types of listening styles that can either help us or inhibit our listening abilities. So if you pay close attention to the content that we cover for this class this week, you'll be able to complete this discussion post with no problem. And of course, feel free to use chapter 5, which focuses on listening, to help you with this discussion post and all of your assignments for this week. Now, to access your course media, you just need to click on modules and then click on course media, which is at the top of the page. Now, after you've had a chance to watch the video and, of course, read chapter 5, I want you to focus on some of the things that you may be doing as an individual, whether it's as a professional or as a student, or even in your social communicative interactions. I want you to think about some of the things that you tend to do when you know you're not really listening to someone that is trying to get your attention or that is delivering a message to you. So when you think about the reasons that you don't listen, I want you to think about some of the reasons that may fall under the categories of internal or external obstacles, as we've been discussing in class. So remember that could be message overload, message complexity, noise, preoccupation, prejudgment, lack of effort, or emotionally loaded language. So I want you to think about how those things interplay and, of course, affect the way that you are listening to another person. And write a paragraph about how some of those listening obstacles or even some of those non-listening behaviors could play a role in your inability to fully, mindfully listen to someone else. Now, the second paragraph, I want you to think about listening styles. So we went over the 4 different listening styles, which are people-oriented listening style, then the action-oriented or content-oriented, and time-oriented. So based on the 4 listening styles that you were able to learn this week, which style do you think better caters to you and your listening goals? For example, you may tend to be a little bit more of a people-oriented style of listener when you're interacting in a social setting or with your family members or with your friends. But when it comes to your work environment, maybe you change into a more time-oriented listening style. So I want you to pay close attention to the kinds of listening styles that you are pursuing, and I want you to write about those listening styles and why you tend to use one listening style or maybe even 2 or 3 over another. Why does it suit you? And why is it why do you need to adapt different listening styles to different situations? So both of these paragraphs are going to be based on your experience, your own personal experience with the things we've been talking about in class. So Remember that we are communicative scientists. We need to learn about communication so that we can improve our communication. In order to improve our communication, we need to be able to look at things objectively and be able to look at ourselves objectively. What are we doing in our communication that can be improved or that is actually working for us? So when you're writing about this, remember to use research in your discussion post. So I give you the questions that you need to write about in your first paragraph, and then the questions that you need to focus on for your second paragraph. Along with that, make sure you incorporate something from research. So it can be something that you mentioned from the video here, or it can be something that you mentioned from the textbook. But make sure that when you mention that information, that you give me an in-text citation letting me know that you have used research from an outside source. This is a requirement in all of your discussion posts. And it's part of the reason that I give you a video to watch for each of your discussion posts so that you already have a research document that you can use to incorporate into your assignment. Now, when you're writing about this research source, or when you include anything from this research source, you have to give me an in-text citation at the end of that sentence. So if you notice, as a special gift, I've already given you the full text citation of the video that I've posted here. So if you use this in your discussion post, which you should, you want to make sure that you put this full text citation at the end of your discussion response. And along with that, if you mention something, and of course, if you put this at the end of your discussion response, you do have to include an in-text citation within the body of your paragraphs. So when you include that in-text citation, remember that you only need to include at the end of the sentence the last name of the author and the year that the work was published. So for example, if I was using something from the video and I wanted to give an in-text citation at the end of my sentence, I would put a parentheses, put the last name Treasure, a comma, and then the year 2012, close the parentheses, and then put the punctuation mark after the parentheses. This is extremely important in all of your discussion responses because I will be looking for you to make sure that you are using in-text citations correctly and that you're properly citing the research sources that you use. If you have any questions about your discussion post, don't hesitate to send me an email or to shoot me a quick text message. And keep in mind that your discussion post needs to be 2 paragraphs. So if you answer all of the questions that are listed here in the assignment instructions, you will create more than enough for 2 paragraphs. And you want to make sure that you respond to 2 other students. When you respond to another student, you have to give that student at least 1 paragraph worth of material. So that includes, of course, 4 sentences or 4 questions, 4 statements, or even if you want to challenge what they may have written, or you want to show how you relate to something they've written, or maybe you want to ask them a question about what they've written. Make sure that you're responding to at least 2 students, and make sure that each of those students gets a paragraph worth of material from you. Now, if you have any questions, again, let me know. The next assignment that I want us to focus on is assignment 1. So if you scroll down underneath week 1, there is assignment 1. Discussion 1, oh, by the way, is due on Wednesday, so you have to post your first response by Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. And you need to respond to 2 other students, including myself. You can definitely respond to me as a peer. If you respond to me, that does count as one of your discussion responses. That needs to be done by Saturday before 11:59 p.m. So your first initial post on your discussion is due by Wednesday. The 2 peer responses are due by Saturday before 11:59 p.m. So your assignment 1 for this week is due by Saturday by 11:59 p.m. as well. And this week we are going to be writing an essay. So when you write this essay, we're going to be focusing on the listening process, listening obstacles, and non-listening behaviors. So what I want you to do for this essay is to pick one movie that you can focus on. So it can be any movie that you like. You just want to make sure that the characters in this movie are communicating with each other. So I've had students that have picked The Lion King. I've had students who have picked different dramas. I've had students who have picked romantic comedies, action films. As long as you see that there is interpersonal communication happening within the film, you can use this film to help you write this essay. So you're going to be analyzing one scene from the film. So I'm not asking you to write about the entire movie. By all means, please do not write an entire essay about the movie. I just want you to pick one scene from the movie, and I want you to focus on that scene and the characters' listening skills in that scene. And focus on whether or not those characters are implementing really good mindful listening and really interacting and engaging with each other, or could they possibly improve their listening skills? Are they allowing their listening obstacles to get in the way of their listening? Are they engaging in non-listening behaviors, such as monopolizing or pseudo-listening? Are they using the proper type of listening style to cater to that particular situation? So you're only going to pick, I would say, no more than a 3 to 4 minute scene from the movie of your choice and focus on the character's listening skills. And you're going to break this down as a communicative scientist. You're going to objectively look at what they're doing wrong and what they're doing right and make an analysis about this character's listening skills. Now, when you're doing this, this is going to help you, of course, analyze how could you improve your listening skills based on the things you were able to observe in the film. So, I make it very easy for your essay, so you don't ever have to worry about writer's block or looking at a blank page and wondering, what do I need to write for this essay? I have given you a complete full outline to help you create each paragraph of this essay. So for example, the essay needs to be at least 2 pages long, not including your title page or your abstract or your references page. Since it's written in APA formatting, you want to make sure that you have a title page, an abstract, and of course, a references page. I have given you, if you've noticed, at the bottom of this assignment, and also in the course announcements, I will give you an APA template that allows you to see exactly what I'm looking for in terms of APA formatting, and you can use this template to help you write and compose your essay. Remember to create the title page by just replacing what's in the template with your information. Now, here is the outline that you need to follow in order to complete this essay. You want to write an introduction, and you're going to first define the term mindful listening. Now, if you define the term mindful listening using your chapter, textbook, or any kind of research source, you want to make sure that you give me an in-text citation that shows where this definition came from. And also, if you mention anything throughout the essay that did not come directly from your own ideas, you need to give me an in-text citation for it. So, I'm pretty sure you're wondering, if you mention something from the film, if you, for example, describe a scene exactly as it was depicted in the film, do you need to cite it? The answer to that is absolutely yes. You want to make sure that you give me an in-text citation anytime that you mention anything directly from the film. So let's say, for example, if I'm describing something that happened in The Lion King, and I tell you that Simba started an argument with his father because he really wanted to go to the elephant's graveyard. Now, in that particular sentence, as I'm describing what's happening in the movie, none of that is my idea. None of that is my original idea. It comes directly from the film. So I do need to cite that information because I'm summarizing something that happened in the movie. Now, if I start describing whether or not I think Simba was eloquent in his communication, or whether or not he was listening fully and directly to his father, then of course that's when I don't need to cite that information, because at that point I'm conducting an analysis or giving an observation of what I think about Simba and his communication skills. So if you have to ask yourself, should I cite it? I would say cite it anyway, because if it comes directly from the film or directly from a research source, you want to make sure that you give me an in-text citation. So I'm pretty sure you're wondering, what do I mean by an in-text citation? Let me just give you a quick little overview of what an in-text citation should look like, just in case you may have forgotten from some of your other classes. So let's say, for example, if I want to cite something from Disney's The Lion King, in my in-text citation, if I mention that Simba was a son of a king. So this is something that comes directly from the film, so I need to include it in in-text citation at the end. In order to include an in-text citation, I put a parentheses. I would put the last name of the director. This is very important when it comes to films. Because it's a film and the person who has the last say so or the last command in a film is a director, you need to cite the director. You don't want to cite the screenplay or the screenwriter or any of the other writers or the executive producer or the studio. You want to make sure you cite the director. So let's say, for example, if the director's last name was Cameron, and I know it's not true, but we're pretending that it is. So imagine that the last name was Cameron. I would just put the director's last name here, and then I would put a comma and the year that work was published. I'm going to guess that it was 2001, but you want to make sure yours is accurate. So I would put that, and then at the end, I would, of course, close it with the parentheses and then put a period after that. So notice that what I've included is an in-text citation at the end of a sentence in which I've mentioned something from directly from the movie. However, if I tell you that Simba is an amazing communicator, this does not need to be cited. Why? Because this is my own idea. This is my interpretation of Simba's communication. It's not exactly what happened in the film. So a rule of thumb, when it comes to research, if you are mentioning something that is not your original idea and it comes directly from an outside source, you want to make sure that you include an in-text citation at the end of that sentence. It makes it very easy. Even if it's not a direct quotation, even if you're summarizing it in your own words, you still need to include an in-text citation. Now, if you're giving me your own original idea or your own analysis or observation about something, then of course you don't need to cite it. So this is a good little exercise to remember, when do I cite something in my essay for this particular assignment, and when do I avoid citing something? So I'll be looking, of course, for that in your essays. I'll be looking for, and I want to see in-text citations. You have to include citations from the movie, and you need to include also in-text citations from the textbook. Those are your mandatory 2 research sources. So I do highly recommend that you pick one more research source, and you can use Shark or ProQuest to access that source. If you have any questions about how to access Shark or how to use ProQuest, feel free to email me. I'll be happy to walk through with you how to log into ProQuest. I won't even mind sending you a video on how to do that on your own as well. So all in all, for this particular essay, you want to follow every single question that's in this particular outline. If you answer each of these questions in your essay, you will have more than enough material to create your essay. One other thing you want to remember is that when I'm asking you a question here, remember that you're not having a conversation with me. You are actually creating an essay. So you want to make sure that when you answer these questions, that you create complete sentences that describe exactly what you want to convey in the answer to that question. So for example, if I give you a question that says, is the character aware of their behavior and obstacles? You don't want to put in your response, no, the character is not aware of their behavior and obstacles. So here, since you're writing an essay, you don't want to pretend as though you're actually conversing with me. I would rather you put, the character is not aware of their behavior and obstacles. So notice that each paragraph has you focusing on different aspects of the listening skills. And then on paragraph 4 and the conclusion, I want you to dive into how this relates to your own listening behaviors and your own listening goals and communication goals. Because the point of this exercise, or the point of this essay, is to give you an opportunity to analyze some communication that's happening outside of you, but to also be able to start analyzing and taking a closer look at the communication that you yourself are pursuing. So are you being a good listener in every situation? In most cases, I will tell you no, because every single one of us fails at some point in terms of our listening, or we could definitely improve in some way. So I want you to take this opportunity that you have after you've had a chance to analyze another character in terms of their listening skills. I want you to now pay attention to your own listening skills. Now remember, for this paper, the first part of this paper, you're focusing on the character's listening skills. Do not give me a summary of the movie. Do not give me just a summary of what's happening in the actual scene. I want you to focus on one scene and focus on how well is the character listening in this scene. I don't need to know everything that's happening in the scene. I just want you to focus on describing what their listening behaviors are. And then for paragraph number 4, in the conclusion, I want you to focus on what have you learned from analyzing these listening skills and how can you use this in your social life, in your professional life, and in your academic life. So remember to use the APA template that I give you in the course announcements to help you create this essay. And if you have any questions about this assignment, don't hesitate to ask. Remember that this is due on Saturday by 11:59 p.m. Now, the last thing that you want to remember to do is your week 1 assessment. The week 1 assessment is not password protected, so you can open up the week 1 assessment whenever you're ready and start answering the questions. Now, keep in mind that this needs to be done by Saturday by 11:59 p.m. as well. Now, the week 1 assessment, you will have 60 minutes. There's not a lot of questions. I think it's about 14 questions. But you want to make sure to use the notes from the classroom discussion that we've had this week. So the PowerPoint that we've been going over in class and all of those notes that we go over from Chapter 5, you want to make sure that you use that information to help you answer the questions for Assessment 1. And then also, in addition to that, you want to make sure that you go to Course Media, and you click on that here after you click on Modules. You click on Course Media, and under Week 1, it has all of the chapter content, so read Chapter 6.1 and Chapter 5, and everything that you need to read and look over, including some helpful videos before you dive into Assessment 1. So, I will warn you, make sure that you've read Chapter 5 and that you've reviewed your notes and you've looked at some of these videos before you take the Assessment 1. The Assessment 1 is open note, but it is timed, and if you have not looked over your notes and if you have not read this material, it is going to be harder for you because a lot of the questions are based on application. So make sure that you review all of your notes prior to taking your Assessment 1. And while you're in class this week, for your in-class assignments, don't forget that you need to submit all in-class activities to Week 1 in-class activities. Now, don't forget that in this class that I post a lot of announcements. I will always post announcements to keep you updated with the material for this week and for each week. So make sure that you're regularly checking your course announcements. I will be announcing very soon that we have an upcoming field trip next week. And I need to get a response from each of you to let me know if you can attend during the day a field trip that happens on Wednesday of next week. So I will post the information about that field trip. If you can make it, let me know. If not, I will have an alternative assignment for you. So I will be posting that information in the course announcements, along with any other announcements that will help you with your course material for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening to this video. Feel free to email me at bianca.chapman@cc-sd.edu if you have any questions, or you can text me at 601-212-9906. Have an excellent day, and I look forward to seeing all of you very soon.